Hey, Will, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Hope you are.
Yeah, did you get the message about the book?
Yes, I did. I'm excited to read it.
Good, good. Yeah, John has done a lot of work in that area. He even set up a program at JMU where kids could get training on emotional intelligence that was not part of the school. It was just kind of a voluntary thing, and a whole bunch of kids signed up for it, including 100 of the rugby players that he sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
And he told that story, but it's really remarkable outcomes with some of that stuff.
Well, every part of a negotiation is emotional.
I disagree. A lot of it is, but there's some that's technical and some that's intellectual. But emotional is usually the deciding, the deciding factor. People who are generally know their stuff and they're enthusiastic and they can create momentum toward their goal. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. And, I think I say that because I like playing poker. And sometimes it works in my favor and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, a lot of it is, what I've learned is a lot of it is, at least as it applies to business, a lot of it is about what kind of scale you want to operate at. So for example, let's say you're an insurance agent or you're a lawyer or an accountant, and you might be really personable and really engaging and be involved with different business groups, and and you as an individual, because of your ability, your outgoingness or your connectivity, you can build a pretty good organization often, just on that basis. It's not even based on your technical expertise, or it's really more on your personality or your connections or whatever. And I've also seen it where somebody has set up such an incredible process that their business is 10 times bigger than the person who does it individually, because of the way they went about it from a business process perspective. And so I've kind of seen it. A lot of it is just personal choice and also your ability. Some people just, particularly people who can sell. Often people who can sell aren't necessarily great managers. It's a common outcome where they really can sell, they really can close, but they can't manage other people very well. So
I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah, it's a real common thing. So I think John was talking about process, and he kind of glossed over it, but his company in that industry that he described, that the typical company has 80 to 100 employees, and he has 12. And he's been doing this for a long time, and his client list is like you wouldn't believe. It has Toyota and Amgen and Merck and all these guys from all around the world, and he's really spent a lot of time on process, which is why it's been able to work out the way it has. Otherwise, he would also have to hire a lot more people. So and part of it, I don't know how great a manager John is. I really don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion there's someone in his organization that is a good manager, a good operations person. Like the woman he mentioned has been with him since the day he started. I would predict that she does a lot of the management stuff that, while John is, aware of issues and strategies and the bigger picture, I bet she's operationally focused, and helps him. That would be my hunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where, in our conversation on Tuesday, which I really enjoyed that too, by the way.
Oh, good.
And that's where I think writing the standard operating procedures for our photographers and the manuals is just absolutely imperative to long-term success for us, and not hitting it all willy-nilly.
Well, I think what you're doing, you're focusing on your process, and there's I'm going to talk today about engaging with mentors, but one of the things that you can do is find mentors who are operationally oriented, who might be able to help you think through. Like you've settled on these SOPs, which is great. Maybe that is the way. Maybe there's some other ways you can add to it, improve it. Maybe with, I don't know what it would be. I'm no expert on that stuff, but someone like John Santamia, who um, he's a really good operations guy. That's his strength, and he's done that for a really long time. Just comes to mind, and we're going to look through the mentors today a little bit more, but that's an example of something specifically that you're working on that a mentor could be very specifically helpful to you, even if they don't get involved in any other aspect of your business. And that's part of the reason we've tried to get a large number of mentors, is because we don't want to put all the weight on just a few of them. We'd rather have a bunch. In fact, I'd like to have 100 ultimately, which would be great. But we're going to talk about that today, on how to engage with them, and different ideas for that kind of thing.
And I do have some personal mentors that I love to reach out to and just bounce off questions. I've mentioned Mr. Bubba Raw to you before, but just having the ability to call him at a moment's notice, and whether he's busy or not, call me back and talk to him. I mean, that's an incredible thing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to have that. And it's also like what I was just talking about. There are different purposes that you use a mentor for. A personal mentor is a different animal than someone who can give you some thoughts on operations, or give you some thoughts on potential merger and acquisition, or whatever. And as your business grows and you grow in your capability, you'll end up with a network that will be attuned to where it is that you're going, and hopefully it'll stretch you and keep you moving beyond kind of what you're thinking, and see if it can expand your horizons a little bit. So that's something too, I think.
I understand that point of view as well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to I don't know how many people here.
Darby and Fireflies
and Taylor, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Taylor, congrats on your nomination.
What's that?
Taylor got nominated for Business Strong Woman Business. I forgot what it was exactly, but I was congratulating her.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. Way to go, Taylor. Okay. Well, today, one of the things that we've been talking about, and I hope you've kind of identified this thread of, starting, I guess, with Tom Newell talking about what is your why? What's your strong why? Why are you doing this? And then John Carr started talking about, what does success mean to you? And what is your personal opinion about some of these things? And then Ben Knight yesterday was talking about operating a business that aligns with your values. And all of these messages are really quite similar. And the reason, I think, is because, and I know in my case, and both Tom Newell and John Carr are 40-year friends of mine, or 35 years. I've known these guys since I was younger than you all are now. So we've been through a lot of different things over the years, good and bad. And I think if I were to know in advance the kind of things that would happen, I don't know that I would have made the same choices I did. I was not trained as an entrepreneur, and I did not have it in my family at all. So it was kind of I don't know what the right word is, but I think, what I did with a lot of this stuff, like, for example, if you're an athlete and you find somebody that you admire and you think, boy, I'd like to be a basketball player like that person, or skateboarder, skier, runner, whatever it might be. And you might use that person as a model, as a mentor, even that person not even knowing that they're that for you, right? Like, but you're watching how they do things, and you're trying to pick up on that. And sometimes you'll find that you have success because you did that, or in addition to why you're successful. Getting some of these models and some of these mentors and some insight into different things can help you move faster. The other thing, though, is I think it's really important to really know yourself, right? What is it that you are all about? And oftentimes in our 20s, I know it was true for me, we tend to act out a role as opposed to who we might really be. Like, we might, it could be from parents, it could be from school, it could be any number of things, and we do things in a way that is somewhat defined externally by people who we respect or we look up to, or for whatever reason you're in a situation where you want to maintain this perspective of who you are. So what I want to do, I got this minute. This video is only 2 minutes long, I think, but what this video is from a movie you probably saw, Catch Me If You Can, which was about a guy named Frank Abagnale, who actually is pretty. He's a real. You get him. You can see him a lot in corporate America. He's hired by a lot of large corporations to come and talk to their employees, much about what we're talking about right now. And so I want to share a segment with you, and then I want to talk about it. So hang on just for a sec. And okay. So in this case, I'm going to share a 2-minute movie clip, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit. But this is a scene where Frank Abagnale, who is a con man, basically, who does all kinds of amazing cons, which are all true stories. This is his effort in a particular industry, and I just want to share that with you. So bear with me.
Hello.
Hi. Are you deadheading?
What?
Are you my deadhead to Miami?
What? Yes, yes. Yeah, I'm your deadhead. Here you go.
You're a little late, but the jump seat is open.
You know, it's been a while since I've done this. Which one's the jump seat again?
Have a nice flight.
Are you my deadhead? Frank, Captain Oliver, John Larkin, the co-pilot, Fred Tully, flight engineer.
Frank Taylor, Pan Am. Thanks for giving me a lift, boys.
Go ahead and take a seat, Frank. We're about to push. What kind of equipment you on? DC-8?
707.
You turning around on the red eye?
I'm jumping puddles for the next few months, trying to earn my keep running leapfrogs for the weak and weary.
No shame in that. We all did it.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Would you like a drink after takeoff?
Milk?
80 knots. Check. V1, rotate. V2, positive rate.
Gear up.
Okay. What I was hoping that you could tell from that little clip is this guy has talked his way onto the jump seat of an airplane, a commercial airliner, dressed in airline pilot clothes, which he stole from someone. And he really didn't know what he was doing. He kind of winged it, and they all, because he looked the part, they all put him, basically set him up and put him in the jump seat. And the final scene, his eyes were really wide because he really had no idea what he was doing. And that plane started rolling down that runway, and then actually the clip ends. But in the movie, he just almost loses it when the plane actually takes off into the sky, because he actually had never flown before. So he was not only playing a role, but he actually did a pretty good job. Arguably, I mean, in looking at it now, he was kind of innocent and kind of nice. He smiled, didn't really cause any friction. And a lot of people made assumptions about him based on his appearance and the way he acted. and so he found himself in a place that, you know, in his case, he was a con man. He didn't earn that place, but nonetheless, he was sitting in the seat, just like the other people that would have, you know, gone through the process. And to me, this is a parallel, maybe overstating it, but it's a parallel to where you find yourself in your business or where you might end up. Um, there's a lot of things that can happen that you may not be prepared for emotionally. And so that's one of the things that John was talking about in the book about emotional intelligence and other resources to really get a handle on why you're doing what you're doing, because you will be tested. It's like the teacher that says this is going to be on the test. And one thing I can promise all of you, you are going to come across that moment of you know, fish or cut bait, if that's the right way to put it. So my hope is that you can prepare yourself as much as possible, and it's really not an academic process. It's not really, you know, studying all that stuff helps, but it really is an emotional process. And by integrating where you're going with who you are legitimately and authentically, we've talked about authentic a lot in this class. It actually makes it a much more enjoyable ride because it is what you want. It is what you expected. You're in a different position. If you're under a lot of emotional pressure, or you're scared, or you're you know, whatever a set of negative emotions could be, that can really hold you back. It's really difficult to process new things and new opportunities if your fear is high, or your faculties are tied up with maintaining an image or whatever. So I did want to you know, cover that idea. Any input on that from you all? Okay, let me see if I can get rid of this here real quick. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about engaging with mentors. And you know, this is a new program. I have not done it before, and part of it I've learned from other programs that have been successful. As I think I've mentioned, there's a program in Colorado in particular that has helped me a lot because they operate in an area somewhat similar to Greenville. It's a small rural area. They work with mentors and so forth. But I want to just encourage or point out some ways that you might work with mentors and how you can get the most out of them. And I'm hoping that in some of these cases, even though the program has a technical finish date in November, my hope is that you could continue with these mentors if they're amenable and you're amenable, you know, permanently or for a long period of time. It's not intended to end when the class does. At least that's not my intent. So I'm gonna switch us to the list of mentors, and let me try that real quick. And hopefully you all can see my screen. So there's a number of mentors here. Some you may know, some you may not. My point is really to think about the different things that you might need, you know, ranging from personal coaching or a mentorship, or specific areas of your business that you feel you might need help with. It might be operational questions. It could be growth questions, like should you buy or merge with another company in your space, or partner with somebody that can cause your growth to accelerate. These folks that are listed here, and we're going to go through them a little bit, all have strengths and weaknesses just like anybody else. Some of them are very operationally oriented, and some are more strategic, used to running large organizations, for example. So I just want to introduce you to a handful of these guys so that you get some sense of who they are. And this is on the acceleraterural.org website. I've removed the password for a bunch of reasons. So you can go on there and you can see who these mentors are, and I can get you connect with any of them. So on this page here, John Santamia, who many of you know, and Bill Pershey, who are listed here, are both very strong operational people. Uh, they know how to set up books. They know how to think in terms of hiring and scaling, and they both have extensive experience with that type of mentoring. Now, it doesn't mean they're not good on strategy. They are. Bill Pershey happens to be one of the world's experts on strategy for pharmaceutical companies. But for purposes of this class, I just wanted to point out kind of their strengths and weaknesses. Now, both Tom Newell and Pam Marone, Pam got her PhD at NC State, but she is a two-time entrepreneur who has launched 2 public companies in the life sciences arena, and she lives in California. But she is a big advocate of women leaders and women entrepreneurs, and she's very, very helpful. She has been through an amazing number of experiences, as you can imagine, launching 2 publicly traded companies over the years. And she would be a good resource for those who, particularly females, who would like to get some perspective from someone who has been around. Tom Newell, you met in our talk. Tom is, he's primarily been trained as a lawyer. He's also kind of operationally oriented. He was the guy who kind of ran Sunrise Living as the president or COO, as opposed to the CEO. But he's also done a fair amount of work as a CEO, raising capital. He's a good guy for what I would call big things, whether it's big moves, big plans. He's a guy who's pretty much done it all from what I know of. Okay, so going down here a little bit. Now, in some cases, some of you have already engaged with these people, so please, I apologize if this is redundant. On this page, Gus Besselel is an old friend of mine. He ran a company that was top 100 Inc. 500 2 or 3 times, I think, over a 5-year period. He's a Harvard MBA. He's got a real strong background in corporate finance. He was a consultant with Bain Consulting, for those of you who know that firm. So he also has great contacts. He's a real networker. He's able to help in a lot of ways in almost every industry that I can think of. He's got access to folks either from his days at Harvard or from his days at Bain Consulting. So he's a real good resource. The next 3 guys are all local. John Chafee, some of you may know. John is an economic developer who recently retired as head of the economic development efforts in our area. He's really knowledgeable about businesses in our area. He's a good person to talk to about potential partnership or ways to reach out to local organizations. He's very well thought of and well known and can help you and wants to help to the extent that he can. Mark Wadowick, we saw on Monday. Mark is primarily a financial guy, a fundraising guy. I don't know much about his operational background. He mentioned in his talk some of that, but I've always thought of him as a guy who can help with how to get funding or what funding should look like or what problems you might have to overcome in order to get funding. And he is an entrepreneur in residence like I am at the Miller School, as is Mike Amon, the next guy. Many of you know Mike. He's a local guy, built up a company, and he's a real good guy for kind of hearing how he bootstrapped his company from startup to multi-million-dollar exit. And he's a good soul, and he wants to help you. So he's somebody that I think some of you already know and are working with. This next group is a little bit different. So Amina Ali happens to be the wife of Gus Besselel, who I just mentioned. Amina is just recently exited out of a company as CEO. She has worked for a lot of venture funded companies. She's also a Bain consultant, really interested in helping women, very knowledgeable, really operationally and strategically. She does a really good job and is a really nice person. I think you'd enjoy working with her. Wayne Jackson is another friend of mine, my era at JMU. believe it or not, Wayne has launched 3 $1 billion venture funded companies that have exited over $1 billion, which is pretty crazy. He's a program developer by background. That's how he got started. Now he's mostly a tech CEO. He's a great guy. He's busy. He's a little harder to get a hold of. But if you're looking for help in growth and technology and thinking about markets, I can't think of anybody better. And his network and relationships are really unmatched in the venture capital community. Phil Hodges, some of you know, he started Maine Pharmaceutical, actually a predecessor company. He's local. He is a busy guy. I don't know how much capability as far as time, availability that he has, but he's launched a big company, and he is an avid investor, and he's very, very interested in helping our local area, and is very active. I serve with him on the patent committee at ECU, so he's very active at ECU. John Andrews has a company in Raleigh called Photify, fairly well-known app if you've run across it. He also has a big retail background. He was a senior executive at Walmart and Target and some others. So John is a guy. I don't know him as well. I haven't worked with him myself as much, but he seemed like a nice guy, and he does have a pretty interesting background, a lot of small business background with the Walmart 11 Moms marketing platform, if you're familiar with that. This next group, you all have heard Andy Galinsky talk. He is a consumer product good executive, really a global executive, one of the top in the field, was active in the purchase of Burt's Bees for Clorox. He also has done a lot of transactions. So he's another guy, even though he's a PhD in chemistry, research chemist, he also knows deals, he knows structure, he knows things that potential acquirers are looking for, and I think he can be really helpful. And he's very interested in helping ECU. He's come to campus in the past. He calls me all the time. He actually uses the Slack channel. So he's a guy who, if it's in your bailiwick, I think he can really be helpful. Matt Crisp is the guy who funded the Crisp Center at the Miller School of Entrepreneurship. You may know him. He's an ECU grad. He built up a company from scratch and sold it out at a big exit. Again, a guy who really cares about East Carolina University. He has a son who's a freshman, I think, this year. Very eager to help. He's been working with a couple of teams already, and the feedback I've been getting from the teams is phenomenal. He's really, really a great guy. Frank Marvin is an old friend of mine. He's a lawyer by training. He also was an early executive at AOL and did a lot of interesting things at AOL. He's a good guy to talk to about growth and about opportunity. Really smart guy, plus a great personality. I think the world of Frank. Linda Crawford is also, she's actually from my hometown originally, although I didn't know her as a kid. I knew her dad, believe it or not, really well. Her dad was a referee, and I was a basketball player, and he kind of took me under his wing when I trained to become a referee at one point for high school and stuff. And her dad actually trained me. So I got to be good friends with him, and I met his daughter. When I met her, she was the number 2 person at Salesforce.com, one of the first female executives at a very high level in software, the Silicon Valley funded software. She's done a number of things in e-commerce and other areas. She is particularly interested in helping female executives, and she's really a good person. You all have met Ben Knight, of course, and heard from Ben. He's more of a small business guy. He's local, very well read, as you gathered from his talk yesterday, knows what's going on, and very helpful. Phil Galdi is one of my oldest friends. He just sold his software company to a private equity firm after he built it up, and they do a lot of software for marketplaces for eBay and Amazon, kind of behind the scenes. So he's a good guy for talking about e-commerce, logistics. He's really, really smart and a good guy. Grant Godwin, some of you know, he's the chairman of North Carolina Rural Center. He also was one of the senior executives for Martin Marietta in North Carolina. Really a great guy. I think he's talked to Taylor at some point. He's a little bit busy, but he's a great guy. He's a native of Wilson, and would just do anything to help you grow your business. And he's a wonderful guy. Mo Farhat, we had him talk about his web capabilities with Shopify. I think some of you have engaged with him a little bit. He's sure seen it all, at least as far as Shopify goes. Scott Crawford is Linda Crawford's husband. He is an enterprise sales expert, is really his expertise. And he's been a lot involved in venture capital raised firms. He is working with one of our teams, kind of a hard-nosed guy, really good if you want to really get in the weeds on setting up B2B sales operations, any kind of enterprise sales operation. He's the best guy I know for that kind of thing. Stephen Bishop is a designer primarily. I met him when he was at IDEO. He's now the head of user experience for Amazon Alexa Auto, kind of a niche thing, but Stephen's really knowledgeable about design and how, particularly in product development, a really smart guy, really interesting guy. Met him a bunch of years ago. Alan Fitzpatrick is a technology executive who is actually providing broadband in rural areas throughout North Carolina with a technology called fixed wireless. He's a great guy. He's an adjunct professor at another university in Charlotte. Real interested in helping young people, really smart, done it, been there, raised money, really good at that. Tom Wall, also another rural center guy who ran the Rural Center's venture capital fund and their investment fund. He just retired in June. Tom has been around a long time, worked for Cisco and Nortel and other big companies. He's particularly good at understanding corporate finance and investment type things. And then the last two we have, Rob and me. Robin is also an old-time friend of mine from JMU. She has been the CEO of a staffing company for 31 years, very, very successful. An early female founder in that space, and just really a great person. If you even just to talk, she's a very talented person, and I think she can be helpful. Benny Hardy's, I know him as. Benny is one of the principals in a large CPA firm in town. He's an ECU guy. His mom was a nurse in the area. He's from my area around Pink Hill. He's a really good accountant and can help you in that space if that's something that you need help with. So anyway, any questions from you all on our mentors or even thoughts on other types of mentors that you might be interested in? Darby, any thoughts on that? Okay.
No, not really.
Okay. How about you, Will?
Yeah, actually, how would you go about approaching one of these mentors? Would you prefer introduce us into them, or would it be something that we would have access to ourselves?
Both. I'd want to at least initially make the connection, and then you would be free to contact them directly.
All right.
Because otherwise, they have no idea who you are at the beginning, right? Yeah. So yeah, you want to have whatever your idea is ready, because they'll respond pretty quickly when I contact them. But yeah, the first cut, I'll connect you, and then you can go from there.
Okay.
Cameron. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on mentorship or really anything we talked about today? Come on, don't be bashful. Okay. Well, that's all I have for today, folks. Reach out to me if you want to connect with any of these mentors. You need more background on any of them. You have questions, use the Slack channel or email, whatever. And next week, I'm hoping we're going to be scheduling the CEO of Burt's Bees, who is a friend of Andy Glinski's, and I'm hoping we'll get him to present to us. He was the CEO of Burt's Bees and Seventh Generation. He actually has a fund now looking for North Carolina companies to invest in. So I'm hopeful we can get him, to agree to talk to the class. He's a very popular guy and very hard to corral, but it looks like we'll be able to do that. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. And if there's anybody you would like to have on here that you're curious about that I can reach out to, please let me know as well. Okay. All right, everybody. That's all I got. We'll see you all later.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.